You know what question people ask me all the time, and what question they're actually asking? People ask me all the time, Jeff, how's the market doing? But you know what they're really asking? What's my property worth? Is my property still worth $2 or $2.5 million? And I gotta tell you, I do these marketing reports every month and every week. I'll check them out, but every month, and these trends on price point mean everything, because at the end of the day, you can run your comps, you can look at your neighborhood, you can compare hillside to beach, but people get these blinders on with their neighborhoods or some property that sold this year or last year or 3 years ago, and what's out there. And we'll have moments where it's hot and we see some pretty good sales, but at the end of the day, how much liquidity in the market. This whole thing about interest rates is all about how much liquidity. It's like they're trying to raise them to squash out the liquidity. So in a market, you have a lot of buyers that are trying to conserve their equity, conserve their capital, conserve their wealth, and they're just throwing it out there. During the pandemic, yeah, they did. During the thin market post-pandemic, yeah, they did. But in today's market, buyers buyers do not want to spend any more money than they need to, and it shows by their activity. So when someone asks me how the market is doing, I just got to let them know it really depends on the price point. It depends on their intentions, commercial, residential, which neighborhood, because it all matters. I'll give you guys the short and skinny. We're still seeing it really strong between 800 and 1.2, but it's actually kind of shifting to more like 700 to 1.1. So what that means is we'll still see properties listing a little bit, but that middle market is our strongest market, and actually our entry level or lower end, there's a lot of activity happening there. The price points in that lower end are not as high as they once were. There was some real strength in the market where you couldn't find anything for sale in 700, single family home. You couldn't find anything under 500,000 for a good little while there. But for the last couple of years, we've opened up that 500 and even below $500,000 market. And on that low end entry level, I do have some friends. I've got some people, they've started their own businesses and they're really coming up. Some young folks, in their 20s and 30s, like, Jeff, how do I buy a house? And I tell them, you've got to get that chip and build it up. So whether someone's, kind of that entry level luxury range at 2.5 million, or the move up buyers, the real key players are the ones that are kind of in that 1 to 2 or 1.2 to 1.4. They want to get that $2 or $2.5 million property. Those are the buyers that are getting the deals, because the motivated sellers are actually going to be selling those 2.5s between 1.6 and 1.8. So does that mean the market's crashing? No, it just means that the stretch between 1 million and 3 million, when there was tons of liquidity and there was nothing for sale, things really went up 10 or 20%. But I mean, if you're up 20% on a property for sale at like 2 million, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of inflated money. And that doesn't mean that it was a bubble, or it's going to pop, or it's going to crash, or we're going to come falling down to zero. No, that's not going to happen. It's coming down to reality. It's just coming down to reality. That's okay. That's okay. That was, what did we experience? We experienced a shutdown, for a 2-week shutdown that lasted 2 years. Fauci's on the fifth. You know, we'd listen to him every night, but now it's like he's got nothing to say. You know, shoot, it happens. We went through it. We're in a new war, and it's affecting, oil prices, gas prices, inflation. It's all out there. But at the end of the day, we still live in, the greatest country in the world. We have all this opportunity, and you can pretty much live wherever you want to live between, this sea to that shining sea. And we are on the Pacific coast in Ventura, California, Ventura County. There's so many cute little pockets in each city. Ventura, Oxnard, Camarillo, Thousand Oaks, Moore Park, Santa Paula. Those are the hot ones. Moore Park and Santa Paula are these overlooked communities that have so much to offer. I'm just gonna say, I was hosting a $2 million property in Santa Paula on Monte Vista. I think we'll have a video coming on it soon. And oh my gosh, this place is amazing. It's got views like hooking around all the way to the west, hooking around all the way to the east, valleys, different places you can look at from this home. Um, Really traditional, almost like a cod Victorian. And it's got this epic pool with two jacuzzis and fountains and infinity pool. And it's epic. And that's going for like, it was, I think they started at 2.4, they're at like 2.1. I think it's gonna sell around 2 million. I don't think it goes really much below 2 million. Some might want to start at 1.8, 1.9, get into some sort of negotiation. It's gonna sell, but it's probably gonna end up more like at 2 million. I can tell that because when I do the open, 6, 7 buyers through only on this one time, not all of them, but just in this little scope. And people like the property. Everyone's loved that property, but that's what you've got to have. You've got to have those banging views. You've got this epic pool, views from the pool. You've got a rooftop deck with a gazebo. Is it a little bit like 35 years old or something? Yeah, it's got dated. It can use some like updates and pretty it up, but it has the en-suites. It's got a Jack and Jill bath with 2 of the bedrooms. It's got a pool room. It's got that primary. It's got views off of the back window where your bed is, which actually is front towards, and then it's got both sides of the home. And you hook around, it's got this office space. Then it has a sunroom, workout room with an outdoor space right next to it. And then you've got the standing shower, the tub, his and her closets. It's not modern, which is why it's not 2.5 or more. And it would be if someone went in and cleaned it up. Like that thing would be like probably a $3 million property because it has all the bones, it has all the structure to be an amazing property. But that's really the case. It's like, is my property worth 2 or 2.5 million? It's like, it is, but we're not in the market where it's really selling right now. We're in a stagnant market in luxury, 100%. The numbers. Let's start backwards with luxury. So we see an inflection point right at like 1.8, right at like 1.8, and it's like mostly zeros and a couple of ones. You get a sale at 2.1 to 2.4. You got one sale. 2.4 to 2.6. You got one sale. Every other price point is 0 till 4 million. There's one sale. A little bit in escrow at the 2.5 million, which is kind of a strong place. 2.5 million in Ventura is a really good property. It's a quality property. But to get more than that for the sale of a property, you've really got to have something special. And those tend to be second home buyers, don't really need it, not highly motivated. The income's locally to produce for someone to just kind of live a regular life and do that. No, you got to have something special going on. So then if you look at that 1.8, you actually have, what is this, 7.4, 3, 10, 17. Yeah, so you've got like 20 to 25 properties above 1.8 and like 3 closings. Okay, how's that for you? Is my property worth $2 million? 3 closings, and you've got like 4 or 5 in escrow. So as a singular category, from 1.8 up, and really above 1.8, those are all priced 2 million and more. So you don't really have to, no one's pricing at like 1.9 or even 1.8. But what's really interesting is that those types of properties, that big number, that big 20 plus number, someone's taking a dive. So that's why if you're luxury, you might not want to be on right now. If you don't need to, because somebody has to. Somebody has to sell, and they're gonna kind of dump the market. And one of my colleagues, I don't want to say his name, is like, I don't want to dump the market just to get a sale done. And it's like it's almost what has to happen, but it doesn't need to happen. It doesn't mean that it's crashing. It just means this isn't a good moment. Like I said before, there's a ton of liquidity out there. People just don't want to buy. They don't want to overpay if they don't have to. So those buyers are much more savvy. It's an equal and opposite reaction to what happened during the pandemic market, where people were just throwing out all their liquidity and almost over purchasing. We saw that in one of the properties in Midtown where someone paid, $200,000 over asking. It was really just about $100,000 over market value, 50 to 100 over market, and they had to play to win in that instance. And that's okay. But yeah, the strategy worked great for the seller and the agent. But That's not every deal. People hear that story and they think that's their property. If your property isn't prepped, if it's dated, it's not modern. And granted, when I say not modern, like hasn't been, updated to a level. Sometimes the traditional homes that have been like in an incubator or a time capsule that kind of have that nostalgic vintage feel, those will do really well too. But it's got to be in great shape. It's got to be something special. So let's just get into some of these numbers. So in the 500 under 500,000, we had 14 homes active, 9 in escrow, and then 5 closed. That's pretty strong. There's a lot of selection there. And then 5 to 600, 15 active, 3 in escrow, and 8 closed. So that's like 30 properties. If you're shopping between like 4 and 600,000, or like around the $500,000 bubble, like that's great. That's $500,000. You know, not a crazy number. It's a big number, but it's not a crazy number. And this is a type of property where if you're earning combined income between 100 to 150,000, you should be able to peel this off, get a property that you're satisfied with because you have a selection. So get the better property that's done, that doesn't need a lot of work, or you buy the fiction, you do it yourself. The trouble is in this area, we're going to get into this more in another one, HOAs. It's August 3rd today, and there's going to be major shifts and changes happening in the criteria that the lenders have to go through with the HOA boards, HOA associations to get their loans approved. It's going to get much more strict, which is going to slow things down. So what we're going to see in this area is going to slow things down, kind of eat up some time. Things will still get done, but it'll just be longer and harder to do. We might see prices fall because of that. See more motivated ones take hits. Okay, well, loans are having trouble. I'm going to come with a cash offer 50 or 100K under. That might happen. That could kind of take the bottom out. That could affect the 6-7s. That could eventually affect the 7 to 8. But that 7 to 1-1 or that 8 to 1-2 middle, those are mostly single family homes. So how is it going to affect there? Well, you might lose out on that move up buyer. You might lose out on that person who wants to sell there. I feel like 525 and 550 is a really strong place to sell. And those condos, especially the 2-1s, pretty condos, pretty much scattered around town. In those startup neighborhoods, you could sell something there, and then you could do that. You could be the move up, moving up to the 7 or 8 or the 8-9. But if they're not selling and getting what they want for it, they might not be the buyer to get that one. So then that person who thought they were going to sell between 8 and 9, now they're selling at like 775, and they're taking a little hit. So that's how these markets affect. And then essentially, you want that person who's selling at 7-8 or 8-9 to be moving up to the 1 or 1-1 area, and then those people are moving up, and the ones that have good equity with their properties worth maybe between 1 million and 1.4, and they got their sights set on the hillside, they got their sights set on the beach or great beach property. Those are the ones where if they've got a big raise, they got a big promotion, they've got a big payday. Not a lot of people in that boat. Not a lot of people in that boat. Most people are getting kind of worked by inflation, cost of living, and kind of scraping the pennies together, whatever price point, because it's all middle, and everyone's working hard for the money. So the people who just scored, who are really taking it up a notch, they're the ones that are going to get that, like, okay, someone was listed at 2.4, and now they're going to sell at 1.8. And if I could get 1.4 for my house, or 1.3, and I can make up that difference, yeah, they might add $300,000 or $400,000 to their loan at a higher interest rate. But if it's like a world difference, they're going to go for it. So those are the ones where people are, okay, I'm in a new kind of status, I'm going to get it, I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to get that house, I'm going to live that lifestyle I want to live. Those are people who are going to move up. There's not as many of those people as there are the people moving down from that category. The ones that feel their property's worth 2 or 2.5 have to move. So what's the conundrum? Well, they end up getting stuck because they've got the low interest rate, they've got that high value of equity in their minds. But if they can't get that equity, why are they going to move down? It's almost like they're paying more to live or have less, even though they need that single family. A lot of times it's baby boom generation, let's just face it, people that are retirees and they want to get that single level, they want to move now, but they don't want to give their equity away and they don't want to give their lower interest rate away either. So that's the stuck, that's the sticky part. Hence why there's only 166 properties for sale right now. So our inventory is about average, absorption rate 2 to 3 months. Not so much different. It's about the flat reaction we were expecting. It's just a little bit earlier in the season than we would presume. It kind of feels like a slow September or a slow October in August. That's what it's kind of feeling like. But there's still plenty of activity, especially the people, still activity in that middle market. There's still plenty of activity in that middle market where people are moving from that 7 and 8 to that 1, 2. People are just like, boom, boom, boom. I just want to trade places. I want to get a little bit better. I want to have a little bit less. And when they're moving from middle to middle, like it's like hotcakes right there. So when people say, how's the market? It's really, really is dependent. Because are you really trying to do that jump and move up? Or are you trying to just trade mid? If you're trading mid, that's a hot, things are happening. People are making moves. Making the jump, you can be a little more selective, but you've got to be able to get a high value for your property. And then when it comes to, trying to just sell, some people are just, I don't even know where I want to go. I just want to sell. I just want to capture that equity. If you're above 2 or in that 2.5 range, it's possible, it's doable, but you've got to be in reality. And if you've got a dated property, I'm not saying like do a $200,000-$300,000 renovation, but you've got to do whatever you can to modernize the home and kind of get it that look and feel, because it doesn't matter the age of the buyer. Everybody wants that new, fresh home. A lot of times people think, oh, someone who likes this style, someone who, no, people are, if everybody's sick of it, some of the people, they've been around it so long, they're over that dated stuff, even more so than the younger folks. So those are some of the trends that we're seeing. Thank you guys so much for watching this market update. Real quick before you go, what do we anticipate for the fall? Looking at what we're seeing right here, I think we're going to see more of this in the fall. If we don't have something magical happen with interest rates or jumping out of that war, how do you get into a war and get out of it like in a couple months? That never happens. We're in this thing for at least a couple of years. And I just feel like that's what's going to happen. So pay attention to interest rates. If we go over 7 on the mortgage interest rate, we're going to see prices fall even more. Some people think that it's not possible, we can't have this crash. It's like the sellers you need to sell will sell at whatever price they can get if they have to sell. But we're not in a desperate market. So what I'm saying is that we're not in one, we're not likely to be in one, but I'm not saying that we couldn't get into one. That is possible, but that depends on things changing. For now, they're playing out exactly how we thought they would. We're in relatively flat line. That luxury market is hurting, and as it should be, because the disparity between price points was huge. It was huge. It was ridiculous how, what people were getting for their homes, and there really wasn't a step by step, those huge jumps and leaps in price points. So at least that's fresh, so that's better for the buy side. But in this thin inventory with a lot of equity, that's the sticky point. There's so much equity out there with people with really low interest rates that those values are going to hold. There just isn't that much inventory. So not to go on and on, but because of our last recession, 2008, 9, and 10, all that pickup that happened, all of that is owned solidly in strong positions.